The manila envelope landed on Penny Silverwood's desk with a soft thud, disrupting the peaceful quiet of Maplewood Public Library. "Sign here, please." The courier's voice was flat, uninterested. Penny's hand trembled as she signed. 3 overdue notices from the bank, 2 hospital bills, and now this mysterious legal document, all in 1 week. When the courier left, she tore open the envelope. "Ms. Penelope Silverwood," the letter began. "We regret to inform you of the passing of Maxwell Reynolds, your maternal grandfather." Penny stopped reading. Grandfather? Her mother had never mentioned her own father, saying only that he had abandoned the family before Penny was born. She continued reading, her eyes widening at each line. "Has named you as the beneficiary of his estate, including a 15% ownership stake in Blackwood Innovations, valued at approximately." The sum made her gasp audibly, drawing a stern chill. "From Mrs. Hendricks, the head librarian." "Sorry," Penny whispered, stuffing the letter into her bag. She finished her shift in a daze, checking out books and helping children find adventures in fantasy worlds while her own reality had just become unrecognizable. At home, the situation that awaited her was all too familiar. The small house was silent except for the mechanical hum of medical equipment. Her father lay in his hospital bed, installed in the living room after the accident 2 years ago that had shattered his spine. "Hey, sweetheart." His voice was weak, but his smile genuine. "How was work?" It was. Penny couldn't bring herself to tell him about the letter yet. The usual. She prepared his medication, changed his and read to him until he fell asleep, all while the letter burned in her pocket. After midnight, Penny sat at their kitchen table, the same one where her mother had taught her to read before cancer took her 5 years ago. She called the number on the letter. "Ms. Silverwood, I'm Jonathan Pierce from Wentworth and Associates," the attorney explained. "Your grandfather was a brilliant engineer who helped found what would become Blackwood Innovations. He and your mother were estranged, but he followed your life from a distance. He was quite proud of you. But why wouldn't he contact me while he was alive? Mr. Reynolds was a complicated man. The important thing now is that your shares represent a crucial voting block in the company. You'll need to come to San Francisco to sign paperwork and attend a board meeting. I can't just leave. My father needs care. The estate will cover a home nurse during your absence. Miss Silverwood, you don't understand. These shares are worth millions, but their real value is in their strategic importance. The current CEO, Dominic Blackwood, is pushing for a project vote. Your shares will decide whether it proceeds." Penny's thoughts raced. The money could pay off her father's medical bills, save their house from foreclosure, and provide the specialized care he desperately needed. 3 days later, Penny found herself in the gleaming Blackwood Innovations headquarters in San Francisco, dressed in the nicest outfit she owned, a navy blue dress from a department store sale that now felt hopelessly inadequate amid the designer suits around her. The executive floor was a symphony of glass and steel. Penny clutched her visitor badge, feeling like an imposter as she was led to the boardroom. "They're waiting for you," the assistant said coolly. The board members, 11 men and 2 women, turned to stare as she entered. At the head of the table sat a man who could only be Dominic Blackwood. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and piercing blue eyes that assessed her with cold calculation. He was younger than she expected for a CEO, early 30s perhaps, and radiated a controlled intensity that dominated the room. "Ms. Silverwood, how kind of you to finally join us," Dominic said, his voice deep and smooth, yet edged with impatience. "We've been discussing the Phoenix project, which requires shareholder approval. Your grandfather's shares, now your shares, represent the swing vote." "I only just learned about all this," Penny said, taking the empty seat. "I'd like to understand what I'm voting on before making any decisions." A flicker of annoyance crossed Dominic's face. "The Phoenix project is a proprietary neural interface technology that will revolutionize medical rehabilitation. The board is divided on proceeding due to the investment required." An older man across the table, introduced as Elijah Crawford, leaned forward. "What Mr. Blackwood isn't telling you is that the project carries significant risks. Maxwell had concerns about its direction before his passing." Dominic's jaw tightened. Maxwell Reynolds was fully supportive of Phoenix. It was his life's work, which makes Miss Silverwood's inheritance rather convenient timing for you, Elijah replied with a thin smile. The tension in the room was suffocating. Penny looked from face to face, Realizing she was in the middle of a power struggle she didn't understand. "I need time to review everything," she said firmly. "We don't have time," Dominic countered. "Our competitors are months from similar technology. We vote today. Then my vote is to abstain until I've done my due diligence," Penny replied, surprising herself with her boldness. The boardroom erupted in murmurs. Dominic's eyes narrowed. Then he abruptly stood. "Meeting adjourned for 1 hour. Ms. Silverwood, a word in my office." Now, Penny followed him, acutely aware of the eyes watching them leave. Dominic's office was minimalist, all clean lines and monochromatic furniture, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Do you have any idea what's at stake here?" "Enlighten me, Mr. Blackwood." "The Phoenix Project isn't just about profits. It could help millions with neurological injuries, people like your father." Penny froze. "How do you know about my father?" "I make it my business to know everything about people who can impact my company," he said unapologetically. George Silverwood, age 53, spinal cord injury from construction accident, limited insurance coverage, mounting medical debt. The compensation from this inheritance could change his life, and yours. "So, you're using my father's condition to manipulate my vote." Penny felt anger rising in her chest. Dominic stepped closer. "I'm showing you what's possible. Your grandfather believed in this project. He wanted you to have these shares for a reason. A grandfather I never knew existed until 3 days ago. Yet he knew you. He chose you." Dominic's intensity was magnetic and intimidating. "I need those votes, Miss Silverwood. What will it take to secure them?" Penny met his gaze. "Respect, for starters. And information, all of it, not just what suits your agenda." Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Surprise, perhaps, at being challenged. "I have a proposition for you then. One that would solve both our problems." "I'm listening." "Marry me." The words hung in the air between them. Penny was certain she'd misheard. "Excuse me." "A business arrangement," Dominic clarified, his voice practical and detached. 1 year as my wife. You grant me voting rights to your shares. In return, I'll ensure your father receives the best medical care available and your financial future is secure." "You can't be serious." "Entirely. The board responds to stability and traditional values. A married CEO presents the image they want. You need money and medical care for your father. I need your shares." His expression was calculating. "It's a rational solution." "It's insane," Penny countered. "I don't even know you. You don't need to know me to understand this is your best option. Think of it as a business contract with mutual benefits." Dominic checked his watch. "The board reconvenes in 40 minutes. I need your answer before then." Penny felt trapped in a surreal dream. "Why me? You could marry anyone. Anyone wouldn't have 15% of my company." Dominic's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Consider it carefully, Ms. Silverwood. This offer expires when we walk back into that boardroom." As he turned to leave, Penny realized she was facing the most impossible decision of her life. "You're out of your mind," Penny said, pacing the length of Dominic's office. "People don't just get married for corporate votes. People marry for less compelling reasons every day." Dominic leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "This is business, Miss Silverwood. Nothing more. It's my life, Mr. Blackwood. Not a business transaction." Dominic checked his watch again. 35 minutes until the board reconvenes. "Would you like some time to think privately?" "No. I'd like you to be reasonable. Why not just buy my shares? They're not for sale according to your grandfather's will." He included a 10-year transfer restriction. Dominic's expression remained impassive. "He clearly intended for you to be involved in the company's future." Penny stopped pacing. "How do you know the details of my grandfather's will?" "Like I said, I make it my business to know." A knock interrupted them. Dominic's assistant entered with a tablet. "Sir, Dr. Winters is on the line from Maplewood General." Dominic took the tablet. "Dr. Winters, thank you for taking my call." "Yes, she's right here." He handed the tablet to Penny. On the screen was her father's neurologist. "Dr. Winters? What's going on?" Penny asked, heart racing. "Miss Silverwood, I've been reviewing your father's case with some colleagues from Stanford Medical Center." Mr. Blackwood arranged the consultation. Penny glanced at Dominic, who had moved to the window, giving her the illusion of privacy. "There's a new treatment protocol we believe could help your father regain some mobility," Dr. Winters continued. "It's experimental but promising, especially for cases like his. Unfortunately, It's not covered by insurance. How much? Penny asked quietly. The figure Dr. Winters named made her stomach drop. I understand it's substantial, he said sympathetically. But Mr. Blackwood has offered to cover the full treatment plan and transfer your father to Stanford's neurology department under my colleague's care. It's an extraordinary opportunity, Penny. After ending the call, Penny set the tablet down carefully, hands trembling with anger and desperation. That was manipulative, even for a corporate shark, she said. Dominic turned from the window. It was informative. Now you understand what's possible. Using my father's condition as leverage is cruel. Being cruel would be watching you walk away from this opportunity out of principle, only to lose your father to inadequate care. His voice remained even. I'm offering a solution to your most pressing problem. At what cost? A year of my life pretending to be married to a stranger. A year in luxury, with financial security, while your father receives world-class treatment. Dominic moved closer. When our arrangement ends, you'll retain your shares and receive a generous settlement. Your father's medical care will continue indefinitely. All I require is your cooperation with the board and appropriate public appearances as my wife. Penny felt cornered. And what about the physical aspects of marriage? There are none, Dominic replied flatly. This is strictly business. We'll maintain separate bedrooms. Your virtue remains intact, if that's your concern. His dismissive tone stung more than it should have. And if I refuse? Then you vote however you choose today, and we both leave with what we came with. You return to Connecticut, to mounting medical bills and inadequate care for your father. I find another way to secure the votes I need. He shrugged. Your choice. 20 minutes later, they were in a conference room with Jonathan Pierce and Dominic's attorney. Penny scanned the prenuptial agreement, her head spinning. I want amendments, she said finally. Dominic raised an eyebrow. Such as, first, I want my father transferred to Stanford immediately, treatment to begin within the week. Second, I maintain personal autonomy, no dictating my appearance, activities, or friendships. Third, I want my own credit card and bank account with a monthly allowance I control. Reasonable, Dominic conceded. Anything else? Yes. I want a written guarantee that after 1 year, I can leave with no complications. My shares remain mine. My father's care continues regardless of our personal arrangement, and I receive a settlement of $5 million. The lawyers exchanged glances. Dominic's expression didn't change. Fine. Draw up the amendments, he instructed his attorney. We have 17 minutes. While the lawyers worked, Dominic's phone rang. He stepped out to take the call. Jonathan leaned toward Penny. Are you certain about this, Miss Silverwood? It's highly unusual. Nothing about this situation is usual, Penny replied. But I don't have better options, do I? There are always options. Just perhaps not better ones, Jonathan admitted. Your grandfather would be surprised by this development. Did you know him well? I was his attorney for 30 years. He was brilliant, demanding, and private. Much like Mr. Blackwood, actually. Jonathan lowered his voice. Maxwell never forgave himself for the rift with your mother. This inheritance was his attempt at making amends. Dominic returned before Penny could ask more questions. The amended agreement was printed, reviewed, and signed with minutes to spare. The meeting's reconvening, Dominic announced. As my fiancé, your vote aligns with mine. We'll announce our engagement to the board. Wait, now? We're getting married immediately. The engagement announcement today achieves what I need for the vote. The wedding will be in 2 weeks, small, private, but well documented for the press. He straightened his tie. Remember, this is business. The boardroom fell silent when they entered together. Dominic remained standing, his hand lightly touching Penny's back. Before we vote, I have an announcement, he said smoothly. Miss Silverwood and I are engaged to be married. We've discovered a shared vision for the company's future and for the Phoenix Project. Shock registered on every face. Elijah Crawford recovered first, his expression darkening. How convenient, he said. And how sudden. The board should question the timing of this romantic development. Question all you want, Dominic replied. But Miss Silverwood and I have agreed that her grandfather's legacy should move forward as he intended. Her shares will vote with mine. Penny felt Elijah's gaze boring into her. Miss Silverwood, are you being coerced? No, she answered firmly. I've reviewed the Phoenix Project documentation. I believe it's consistent with my grandfather's vision. It wasn't entirely a lie. She had skimmed the materials during the meeting break, enough to know the project involved neural interface technology that could potentially help her father. The vote proceeded. The Phoenix project was approved 8-5, with Penny's shares providing the margin needed. As board members filed out, their curious glances made Penny's cheeks burn. Elijah paused beside her. "I hope you know what you're doing," he murmured. "Dominic Blackwood collects beautiful things, uses them until they lose their shine, then discards them, people included." Before she could respond, Dominic appeared at her side. "Crawford," he acknowledged coldly. "The vote's decided. Move on." After Elijah left, Dominic turned to Penny. "You did well. A car is waiting to take you to the hotel. Tomorrow we'll visit your father to arrange his transfer. That's it. Business concluded, so I'm dismissed. For now, my assistant has your itinerary for tomorrow." He checked his messages. "I have meetings for the rest of the day. The driver will collect you at 8 tomorrow." As Penny walked toward the elevator, the reality of what she'd agreed to settled over her. 1 year married to this calculating, cold stranger in exchange for her father's care and financial security. 1 year of pretending to be in love with Dominic Blackwood, who saw her as nothing more than a voting proxy with a convenient backstory. The weight of the decision pressed on her chest. She'd sacrificed her freedom, privacy, and dignity. Yet thinking of her father's face when he heard about the new treatment, she knew she would make the same choice again. In the elevator, Penny caught her reflection in the mirrored wall. She hardly recognized herself, the determined set of her jaw, the wary look in her eyes. Whatever happened in the coming year, she wouldn't let Dominic Blackwood's world consume her. She would honor this business arrangement, but she wouldn't lose herself in it. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. Penny stepped out, shoulders back, into her new reality. The wedding was a blur. A private ceremony at Dominic's Palo Alto estate, a carefully curated guest list of board members, key investors, and select media representatives. Penny wore a designer gown she hadn't chosen, stood beside a man she barely knew, and smiled for cameras that would distribute the images to generate exactly the narrative Dominic wanted. 2 weeks later, she stared at the Society page headline. Tech Titan tamed. Blackwood weds small-town librarian in fairy tale romance. "The coverage is perfect," Dominic said, not looking up from his tablet as they sat at opposite ends of the breakfast table. "The stock is up 12% since the announcement." "Glad my virtue is good for business," Penny muttered, pushing away her untouched coffee. Dominic finally looked at her. "Your father's first treatment was successful. Dr. Winters reports his responsiveness has improved." Despite herself, Penny felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you for arranging everything." "It's part of our agreement," Dominic replied, returning to his emails. "Selena will take you shopping today. The charity gala is tomorrow night, and you need appropriate attire. I can dress myself." Selena understands the expectations for a CEO's wife at these functions. "You don't." His tone was matter-of-fact. "The Blackwood Foundation has donated $5 million to this organization. Your appearance reflects on that relationship. Of course, heaven forbid your wife looks like she shops at department stores." Dominic set down his tablet. "Penny, this isn't about humiliating you. It's about meeting the expectations of our position. Like it or not, appearances matter in this world." "Your world," she corrected. "Our world now. For the next 11 months and 16 days, at least." The gala was held at the Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco. Penny stood beside Dominic in a midnight blue gown that had cost more than her annual salary at the library. Her hair was swept up by a stylist, her makeup professionally applied. She looked beautiful, and she felt like an imposter. "Mrs. Blackwood, what a pleasure to finally meet you," a silver-haired woman said, approaching them. "I'm Margaret Thornfield, chairwoman of the hospital board. Your husband's generosity has been transformative for our neurology department." "The Phoenix Project makes our donation even more impactful," Dominic replied smoothly. "The interface technology will eventually integrate with the rehabilitation center we're funding." "How wonderful. And how did you two meet?" It seemed so sudden in the press. Dominic placed his hand at the small of Penny's back. "Penny is Maxwell Reynolds' granddaughter. When we met to discuss her inheritance, we discovered a shared vision and fell madly in love," Penny added with a saccharine smile. "It was so unexpected. One moment we were discussing neural interfaces, the next we couldn't imagine being apart." She felt Dominic's fingers press slightly against her back, a warning. How romantic, Margaret said. Brilliant minds often find each other. When she moved on, Dominic leaned close to Penny's ear. Don't overplay it. I thought I was being convincing, Penny whispered back. Isn't that what you're paying me for? His eyes flashed with irritation. You're not a trained actress. Simple and sincere works better. Simple and sincere. Got it. Penny spotted a waiter with champagne and reached for a glass. One is enough, Dominic said quietly. Board members are watching. Penny withdrew her hand. Is there a manual for all your rules? You'll learn as we go. Mr. Blackwood, what a delightful surprise. The voice came from behind them. Dominic's posture stiffened slightly before he turned. Crawford, I wasn't aware you supported children's medicine. Elijah Crawford stood before them in an impeccable tuxedo, champagne in hand. I'm full of surprises, much like your recent nuptials. His gaze shifted to Penny. Mrs. Blackwood, you look stunning. Marriage clearly agrees with you. Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Elijah, please. We're practically family now that you've joined the Blackwood circle. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I hope Dominic is treating you well. He has a reputation for being demanding. My husband appreciates my independence, Penny replied carefully. Elijah chuckled. That would be a first. Dominic prefers control in all things. He sipped his champagne. Has he told you about the origins of Phoenix? It's quite the family saga. Not now, Crawford, Dominic said, his voice low. No? Perhaps another time then. Elijah's expression was pleasant, but his eyes calculating. Penny, if you ever need a friendly ear, someone who understands the Blackwood Empire from the inside, I'm at your disposal. That won't be necessary, Dominic interjected. Let your wife speak for herself, Dominic. Elijah maintained his smile. Independence, remember? Penny felt the tension between the two men like a physical force. Thank you for the offer, Elijah. I'm still finding my footing in this new world. Of course you are. It's a significant adjustment from. He paused. Maplewood, was it? Quaint little place. I looked it up. The subtle condescension in his tone bristled. Before Penny could respond, Dominic stepped in. We need to greet the foundation directors. Excuse us, Crawford. As Dominic guided her away, Penny felt Elijah's gaze following them. What's the history between you two? Crawford was my mentor's protege before I took over the company. He expected to be named CEO. He wasn't. I take it he's not a fan of Phoenix. He believes it's too ambitious, too expensive, and unlikely to succeed. Dominic's jaw tightened. He's wrong. For the next hour, Penny smiled and nodded through conversations about stock prices, market projections, and yacht purchases. Her cheeks ached from fake smiling. When Dominic became engrossed in a discussion with investors, she slipped away to find a quiet corner. The museum's rooftop garden was nearly empty. Penny breathed in the cool night air, gazing at the city lights. After growing up in a town of 15,000 people, the scale of San Francisco still overwhelmed her. Escaping already? She turned to find Elijah approaching, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. He offered her one. Thank you, she said, accepting it despite Dominic's earlier warning. I needed some air. These events can be suffocating, especially when you're playing a role. Penny tensed. I don't know what you mean. Come now, Mrs. Blackwood. Your marriage to Dominic immediately after inheriting crucial voting shares? The timing is impossible to ignore. He leaned against the railing beside her. I'm curious about the arrangement. What did he offer you? Money? Position? Or was it something more personal? My relationship with my husband is not your concern, but the welfare of the company is. Your grandfather was a founding partner. You know, we worked together for years before Dominic arrived. Elijah's voice softened. Maxwell would be concerned about how quickly you've aligned yourself with Blackwood's vision. You seem very interested in my grandfather. We were close. He had reservations about Phoenix in its current form. Did Dominic share those concerns with you before securing your votes? Penny took a sip of champagne, buying time. Mr. Crawford, Elijah, please. Elijah, she corrected. My grandfather left me his shares because he trusted my judgment. I've reviewed the Phoenix project and believe in its potential. Have you seen the complete files? The early test results? The research on potential neural degradation? Before she could answer, a security guard approached. Mrs. Blackwood, your husband is looking for you. Elijah stepped back. Think about what I've said, Penny. Asked to see all the files. A true partner in marriage should also be a partner in information. He handed her a business card. When you're ready to talk, call me directly. Later that night, As their car pulled into the estate's gated entrance, Dominic finally broke the silence. "What did Crawford say to you on the rooftop?" Penny turned from the window. "How did you know I was with him?" "Security cameras." "Answer the question." "He suggested I might not have all the information about Phoenix." Dominic's expression darkened. "Crawford is trying to undermine the project. He'll use any means necessary, including manipulating you. Is there something I should know about Phoenix?" "You've seen the documentation the board approved. But is there more? Research on neural degradation, for instance?" The car stopped at the mansion's entrance. Dominic turned to her, his eyes cold. "Crawford is planting doubts. Don't let him." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight." Dominic exited the car, leaving Penny to follow. Inside, they parted ways at the grand staircase. Dominic to his wing of the mansion, Penny to hers. In her lavish suite, she kicked off the designer heels and unzipped the couture gown, letting it pool on the floor. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, a stranger in borrowed finery. 11 months left in this gilded cage. 11 months of navigating Dominic's world while trying not to lose herself in it. 11 months of pretending to be in love with a man who saw her as nothing more than a business asset. Penny picked up Elijah's card from her clutch, turning it over in her hands. His words echoed in her mind. Asked to see all the files. A true partner in marriage should also be a partner in information. She tucked the card into her jewelry box. Not yet, but perhaps soon. First, she needed to understand the game being played around her and her true role in it. Penny spent the next week learning to navigate the Blackwood Mansion, a sprawling modernist structure of glass, steel, and stone perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. The staff, housekeeper, chef, groundskeeper, and security, treated her with professional courtesy but maintained a careful distance, as if uncertain how long this new Mrs. Blackwood would last. Dominic was rarely home, leaving before dawn and returning late, entirely consumed by Phoenix. Their interactions were brief, formal exchanges over hasty breakfasts or missed dinners. On her 8th day as Mrs. Blackwood, Penny found the library, a 2-story room with floor-to-ceiling shelves and a spiral staircase to a mezzanine level. Here, finally, was something familiar in this alien world. Mrs. Blackwood, the housekeeper, Mrs. Chun, appeared at the doorway. "I've been looking for you. A package arrived for you." The box contained a new phone and tablet. A note in Dominic's precise handwriting read, "For security reasons, your previous devices have been deactivated." Penny felt a surge of anger. No discussion, no warning, just another unilateral decision. That evening, when Dominic returned, she confronted him in his home office. "You can't just cut me off from my own devices," she said, placing the box on his desk. Dominic didn't look up from his computer. "Your previous phone and email had inadequate security. As my wife, you're now a target for corporate espionage and press intrusion. You should have discussed it with me first." It was a necessary precaution. He finally looked at her. "Your contacts and appropriate apps have been transferred. What else do you need?" "Privacy. Autonomy. The things I specifically included in our agreement. The agreement guarantees you won't be controlled. It doesn't exempt you from standard security protocols." Dominic stood, moving to a cabinet where he poured himself a scotch. "Is there anything else?" "Yes. I want to learn more about Phoenix. If I'm going to be asked about it at events, I should understand what it actually does." Something flickered in Dominic's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or wariness. "The technical details are confidential. I'm your wife. I signed NDAs." "It's late, Penny." "It's 8:30. Dominic sighed. "Fine. The simplified version. Phoenix is a neural interface that creates new pathways around damaged neural tissue. It allows the brain to communicate with parts of the body that were previously disconnected due to injury. Like my father's spinal injury." "Exactly. The treatment he's receiving now is preparing his neural receptors for eventual Phoenix integration." Dominic took a sip of his scotch. "Your grandfather pioneered the initial concept 20 years ago. I've been developing it further for the past decade." "Was Phoenix why you took over the company?" A shadow crossed his face. "Among other reasons." "What were the others?" "That's not relevant to our arrangement." Dominic set down his glass. "I have calls with Tokyo in 30 minutes. Was there anything else?" Penny recognized the dismissal. "Not tonight." The next morning, she decided to visit her father at Stanford Medical Center. Dominic's driver, Marcus, took her without question, One small freedom she still possessed. Her father looked better than she'd seen him in years. His color had improved, and he could move his right hand with greater control. "The doctors here are amazing, Pen," he said, eyes bright with hope for the first time since the accident. "They're talking about new neural stimulation techniques that might help me regain more function." "That's wonderful, Dad. In this room, have you seen the view? They tell me Dominic insisted on the best suite in the neuro wing." He squeezed her hand. "I wasn't sure about this marriage, honey, but he's taking good care of you and me." Penny forced a smile. "He's dedicated to the best outcomes." After visiting her father, Penny asked Marcus to wait while she walked the hospital grounds. Near the rehabilitation garden, she noticed a separate building with Blackwood Pediatric Rehabilitation Center on the entrance. Curious, she went inside. Children of various ages worked with therapists in a large, sunny room filled with specialized equipment. Through a window, she spotted a familiar figure, Dominic, sitting on the floor beside a young boy in a wheelchair, showing him something on a tablet. Penny watched, transfixed. Dominic's face was transformed. The hard lines softened, his expression open and gentle as he worked with the child. When the boy managed to move a small object on the screen using subtle head movements, Dominic's smile was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way Penny had never seen. She slipped away before he noticed her, questions multiplying in her mind. That night, rain lashed against the windows of the mansion. Penny wandered the empty halls, eventually finding herself in the library again. She browsed the shelves, fingers trailing along spines of leather-bound classics and modern first editions. On the upper level, she discovered a section of technical journals and engineering texts. One volume caught her eye, Neural Interface Paradigms, with Maxwell Reynolds listed as a contributor. She pulled it down, opening to find a handwritten note on the flyleaf. To Dominic, "Keep pushing the boundaries. The impossible just takes longer." Maxwell. Thunder cracked overhead as Penny continued searching. She found more books with notes from her grandfather to Dominic, suggesting a closer relationship than Dominic had indicated. Lightning illuminated the room as Penny heard footsteps on the stairs. Dominic appeared, rain-damp and disheveled. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice rough with exhaustion. "I couldn't sleep. I didn't realize this was off-limits." "It's not." He noticed the book in her hands. "Your grandfather gave me that when I joined the company. You knew him well. He was my mentor." Dominic ran a hand through his wet hair. "He saw potential in my work when others didn't. Yet you never mentioned this connection." Lightning flashed again, illuminating his face. For a moment, his carefully constructed facade seemed to crack. Maxwell was more than a colleague. He was the father figure I never had. His voice was quiet, almost lost beneath the rain. When he died, thunder rumbled, closer now. Dominic stepped nearer, close enough that Penny could see droplets of rain still clinging to his eyelashes. "I saw you today," she said. "At the rehabilitation center." Surprise registered on his face. "Why were you there?" "I was visiting my father. I saw you with that boy." Dominic looked away. "Jamie. Spinal injury from a car accident last year. He's testing an early Phoenix prototype. You seem different with him. More human." Dominic supplied, a bitter edge to his voice. "Real," Penny corrected. The power flickered, then failed, plunging the library into darkness. Lightning flashed, illuminating Dominic's face. Closer now, his expression unguarded in the momentary light. "There's more to you than you let people see," Penny said softly. In the darkness, she felt his hand find hers. "There's more to everything than people see." Another lightning flash. Their eyes met. For a suspended moment, the pretense between them dissolved, replaced by something unexpected and electric. Thunder crashed directly overhead. Dominic pulled away as emergency generators hummed to life, soft lighting gradually returning to the room. The moment broken, his expression closed again. "It's late. You should get some rest." As he turned to leave, Penny realized her heart was racing, and not from the storm. The morning after the storm, something had shifted between Penny and Dominic. At breakfast, their usual silence felt charged rather than cold. When their hands accidentally touched reaching for the coffee pot, neither pulled away immediately. "I'd like to see more of the Phoenix project," Penny said finally. "The practical applications, like what you're doing with Jamie." Dominic studied her over the rim of his cup. "Why the sudden interest?" "It's not sudden. But seeing you with that boy made it real in a way your corporate presentations haven't. He seemed to consider this. I have a demonstration for potential investors next week. You could attend. It wasn't quite what she'd asked for, but it was something. Thank you. 3 days later, Penny received a text from an unknown number. Information you should see. Coffee. Harbor View Hotel, 2 p.m. Elijah. She hesitated, then deleted the message. Whatever game Elijah was playing, she wouldn't be manipulated. That afternoon, while reviewing charity foundation proposals in Dominic's home office, she spotted a file labeled Phoenix Original Trials. Curiosity overrode her better judgment. She opened it to find technical reports with her grandfather's name prominently featured, alongside notation about neural pathway degradation concerns. The sound of approaching footsteps made her hastily return the file and switch screens. Dominic's assistant, Jackson, appeared at the doorway. Mrs. Blackwood, I didn't realize you were here. His tone suggested she shouldn't be. Just reviewing foundation materials, Penny replied, noting how he glanced at the monitor. Is there a problem? Mr. Blackwood prefers his office remains private when he's away. I'm his wife, not an intruder. Jackson's expression remained professional but cool. Of course, I'll let Mr. Blackwood know you were looking for foundation materials. In the future, I can provide those in the library. After he left, Penny checked her phone. She had 4 missed calls from her father's doctor and 1 text. Please call immediately regarding George Silverwood. Panic seized her. She dialed immediately. Dr. Winters, what's happened? Mrs. Blackwood, your father experienced unusual neural activity after this morning's treatment. We've stabilized him, but I'm concerned about unexpected synaptic responses. I don't understand. Is he okay? He's conscious and his vitals are strong, but he's experiencing some confusion and sensory issues. We're running additional tests. I'll be there as soon as possible. Penny grabbed her purse and rushed downstairs, almost colliding with Dominic at the front door. What's wrong? He asked, noting her distress. My father had a complication from his treatment. She moved past him toward the door. I need to get to the hospital. I'll take you. His tone left no room for argument. Within minutes, they were in his Tesla, speeding toward Stanford. Dr. Winters mentioned unusual neural activity. Penny said, could this be related to the Phoenix preparation treatments? Dominic's hands tightened on the steering wheel. It's unlikely. The preparatory protocol has been extensively tested. But Phoenix itself has had issues with neural degradation, hasn't it? I saw a file in your office. His eyes flashed to her. You were going through my files? I saw a folder while working on foundation materials. It mentioned concerns about the original trials. Those were early-stage issues that have been resolved. His voice was tight. Your father is receiving standard neural stimulation therapy, not experimental treatment. At the hospital, they found Dr. Winters reviewing brain scans. Mrs. Blackwood, Mr. Blackwood. He nodded to them both. Your father is resting comfortably now. The unusual activity has subsided. What caused it? Penny asked. We're still determining that. His neural pathways are showing increased connectivity, which is our goal, but the response was more dramatic than anticipated. Could this be related to his previous medication regimen? Dominic interjected. Antispasmodic drugs can sometimes interact with neural stimulation. Dr. Winters looked thoughtful. It's possible. We'll adjust the protocol accordingly. After checking on her sleeping father, Penny stepped into the hallway to find Dominic on his phone, speaking in hushed tones. I need the complete file on patient GS immediately. He ended the call when he saw her. What was that about? She demanded. Ensuring your father gets the best care. By accessing his files without permission? That's a privacy violation. I funded this entire wing, Penny. Nothing happens here without my knowledge. He stepped closer. Your father will receive the best possible treatment, but I need to understand what went wrong. And if Phoenix was the cause, then we'll adjust. Science advances through careful observation and adaptation. His clinical tone chilled her. He's not a lab rat, Dominic. He's my father. I'm well aware. His expression softened slightly. Stay with him. I'll have dinner sent up. I need to handle something at the office, but I'll return later. Alone with her father, who now slept peacefully, Penny struggled with growing unease. When her phone buzzed with another text from Elijah, heard about your father. This is exactly what I warned about. Call me. Her resolve weakened. She stepped into the empty corridor and dialed his number. Elijah, what do you know about my father's condition? Not over the phone. Meet me in the hospital cafeteria in 20 minutes. In the basement cafeteria, Elijah was waiting in a corner booth. He slid a tablet across the table. These are the complete Phoenix trial reports, the ones Dominic won't show you. Subjects experienced similar neural complications to what your father is showing. In some cases, it progressed to permanent damage. Penny scrolled through the documents, recognizing her grandfather's handwriting in the margins with notes like reconsider neural load parameters and pathway deterioration unacceptable. How did you get these? Your grandfather shared his concerns with me before he died. He was worried Dominic was moving too fast, prioritizing results over safety. Elijah's voice softened, particularly after what happened to Dominic's parents. What about his parents? They were among the first Phoenix test subjects after their car accident. The results were catastrophic. Elijah leaned forward. Penny, Dominic isn't just building a medical device. He's seeking redemption for failing to save his parents. He'll sacrifice anything, anyone, to make Phoenix work. Including my father? I believe so. The preparatory treatments your father is receiving are modeled directly on revised Phoenix protocols. Elijah reached for her hand. You need to remove him from this program before permanent damage occurs. Penny pulled her hand away. I should talk to Dominic first. He won't tell you the truth. He never does. Elijah slid a thumb drive across the table. Complete files. Review them yourself, then decide. When Penny returned to her father's room, Dominic was there, reviewing charts with Dr. Winters. His expression darkened when he saw her. Where were you? He asked after the doctor left. Getting coffee. She clutched the thumb drive in her pocket. Any changes? He stabilized. We're adjusting the treatment protocol. Dominic studied her face. You seem upset. I'm worried about my father. That's understandable. He checked his watch. I need to return to the office. Security will stay with you, and the driver is available whenever you're ready to come home. The word home rang hollow. The mansion wasn't home. It was an elaborate stage for their performance. After Dominic left, Penny watched her father sleep, torn between loyalty to their arrangement and fear for his safety. The thumb drive in her pocket felt like a ticking bomb. That night in her suite, she plugged it into her laptop. As the files loaded, she wondered which would be more dangerous, knowing the truth or remaining ignorant of it. The files on Elijah's thumb drive painted a disturbing picture. Early Phoenix trials had indeed resulted in neural degradation in some subjects. Penny recognized her grandfather's notes questioning the project's safety protocols. Most troubling were records of two patients, Robert and Diana Blackwood, who suffered catastrophic neural collapse after experimental treatments. Dominic's parents. Penny closed the laptop, mind racing. Why would Dominic pursue a technology that had failed so tragically with his own parents? Was Elijah right about his obsession with redemption, regardless of the cost? She couldn't sleep. At dawn, she drove herself to the hospital, avoiding Dominic's security detail. Her father was awake, color improved. Morning, sunshine, he greeted her. You look terrible. Thanks, Dad. She managed a smile. How are you feeling? Better. The confusion is gone. He reached for her hand. Dr. Winters says it was an unexpected medication interaction. They've adjusted everything. Are you sure you want to continue these treatments? We could explore other options. Penny, I moved my pinky toe this morning. His eyes were bright with tears. First voluntary movement below my waist in 2 years. Whatever they're doing, it's working. Her throat tightened. How could she take this hope from him based on suspicions and old files? When she returned to the mansion, Dominic was waiting in the foyer. Where were you? His voice was controlled but tense. Security reported you left without escort at 5 a.m. I was checking on my father. You should have taken Marcus. It's a security protocol, not a punishment. Stop managing me, Dominic. Exhaustion and worry made her reckless. I'm not one of your employees. No, you're my wife, which makes you a target. There were photographers outside the hospital gates yesterday. Is that your real concern? Bad publicity. His jaw tightened. My concern is your safety and your father's recovery. Is it? She met his gaze directly. Or is he just another test subject for Phoenix? Dominic went very still. What are you suggesting? I know about your parents. Penny watched his face pale slightly. I know they were early Phoenix test subjects. I know what happened to them. Where did you get that information? Does it matter? Is it true? Dominic turned away, moving to the window. For a long moment, he said nothing, shoulders rigid with tension. Yes. His voice was low. My parents were among the first Phoenix subjects after their accident. The interface was crude then. The results were not what we hoped. Did my grandfather know? Maxwell was there. He tried to warn about potential complications, but Dominic's fists clenched. I was young, desperate to help them. I pushed too hard. The raw pain in his voice shook her. This wasn't the calculated CEO, but a son who had lost his parents. Why continue developing technology that failed so catastrophically? Because Maxwell was right about the problems, and we've solved them. Dominic turned back to her. Phoenix doesn't cause neural degradation anymore. The early failures taught us critical lessons. My father had complications yesterday, which were addressed immediately. His treatment plan has already been modified. Penny hesitated, then asked the question that had haunted her all night. Did Elijah Crawford have anything to do with your parents' accident? Dominic's expression sharpened. Why would you ask that? Just answer the question. I've long suspected Elijah tampered with their car's automated systems, but could never prove it. What? He approached me yesterday, showed me Phoenix files, warned me about the danger to my father. Penny watched comprehension dawn on Dominic's face. And you believed him. It wasn't a question, but an accusation. I didn't know what to believe. You hide things, Dominic. You control information the way you try to control everything else. Crawford is manipulating you. He's always wanted Phoenix to fail. Why? Dominic's expression darkened. Because its success would expose him. The original accident, the one that injured my parents, happened after they discovered Crawford was selling proprietary technology to competitors. The automated driving system failure was never fully explained. But surely there was an investigation? Crawford buried the evidence. By the time I pieced together what might have happened, the trail was cold. Dominic's eyes met hers. Did he give you something? Files. Data. Penny hesitated, then reached into her bag for the thumb drive. This. He said it contained the complete Phoenix trials. Dominic took it. May I? She nodded. He inserted it into his phone, checked the contents, then laughed without humor. These are manipulated files. The data has been selectively edited. He looked up at her. Did you show this to anyone? Hospital staff? Board members? No. I needed to understand it first. Good. Dominic pocketed the drive. Crawford is making his move. The quarterly board meeting is next week. He's trying to undermine Phoenix before then. Using me. And your father. Dominic's expression softened slightly. Penny, I swear to you, your father is receiving the safest possible treatment. Yesterday's complication was addressed immediately precisely because we've learned from past mistakes. Why should I believe you over Elijah? Because I'm the one who modified our marriage contract. Dominic held her gaze. Check with Jonathan Pierce. The day after we signed, I amended the terms. Your father's care continues regardless of our marriage status. Your settlement and shares remain yours unconditionally. Penny stared at him. Why would you do that? Because you're not a transaction to me. Not anymore. The admission seemed to cost him. Call Pierce. Verify it. Before she could respond, Dominic's phone rang. His expression changed as he answered, switching to speaker. Mr. Blackwood, this is Dr. Winters. We have a situation. George Silverwood has been removed from the hospital against medical advice. By whom? Dominic demanded. Elijah Crawford. He had transfer paperwork, seemingly authorized by Mrs. Blackwood. Penny gasped. I never authorized that. Mrs. Blackwood is with me, Dominic confirmed. The authorization is fraudulent. I've already notified security, but they left 20 minutes ago. Track his phone. Dominic instructed someone off call. To Dr. Winters, he said, send me his complete treatment protocol immediately. As Dominic mobilized a search team, Penny stood frozen, the truth finally crystallizing. Elijah hadn't been warning her. He'd been laying groundwork. Now he had her father, leverage against both her and Dominic. He's taking him to discredit Phoenix, Dominic said grimly, ending another call. Without the proper treatment protocols, your father will deteriorate, proving the technology is dangerous. We have to find him. Dominic's hand found hers, warm and steady. We will. I promise. For the first time since their arrangement began, Penny believed him completely. Every minute felt like an eternity. Dominic's security team traced Penny's father's phone to an abandoned Blackwood research facility in Woodside, then lost the signal. Crawford knows our security protocols, Dominic explained as they raced toward the location. He's deliberately staying one step ahead. Penny stared out the window, hands clenched in her lap. Why would he do this? Using my father as a pawn is unconscionable. Crawford lost everything when your grandfather chose me to lead Phoenix. This is his last-ditch effort to prove the technology is flawed. Dominic's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. By interrupting your father's treatment protocol, he can induce the very neural degradation he claims Phoenix causes. But why target my father specifically? Because of you. Dominic glanced at her. You're Maxwell's granddaughter, my wife, and the swing vote on the board. If your father deteriorates after Phoenix preparation therapy, your devastated withdrawal of support would kill the project permanently. The facility came into view, a low concrete building partially hidden by redwoods. Dominic parked away from the entrance, cutting the lights. Wait in the car, he instructed. Security will be here in 7 minutes. My father is in there. I'm coming with you. Crawford is dangerous, Penny. So am I when it comes to my father. She met his gaze steadily. Either we go in together or I go in alone while you wait for backup. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. Stay behind me. They approached the building silently. Through a window, they saw Elijah standing over George Silverwood, who lay on a medical bed connected to monitoring equipment. He's deliberately inducing neural stress, Dominic whispered. The electrical stimulation pattern is all wrong. We need to stop him now. On my signal. Dominic moved toward the door. 3, 2. Before he could finish, the door burst open. Elijah stood there, gun in hand. I was wondering when you'd arrive. His smile was cold. Both of you. How convenient. This is over, Crawford, Dominic said calmly, though Penny could see the tension in his shoulders. Security is already on their way. They won't make it in time. Elijah gestured with the gun. Inside, please. They entered the facility. Penny rushed to her father, who was conscious but confused. Dad, it's me. You're going to be okay. His neural pathways are already showing stress, Elijah announced. Quite similar to the patterns in Robert and Diana Blackwood before their systems collapsed completely. Because you're deliberately causing it, Dominic accused. The same way you sabotaged my parents' car and then used Phoenix's early development stage as cover for murder. Murder is such an ugly word. I prefer removing obstacles. Elijah's attention shifted to Penny. Did he tell you the whole truth? That his obsession with Phoenix isn't about helping people, but about proving he could succeed where his parents failed. Don't listen to him, Penny. Phoenix was Maxwell's creation, Elijah continued. But Dominic hijacked it, turned it into his personal redemption project. He's willing to risk any life, including your father's, to succeed where he failed before. That's not true, Dominic said. Maxwell and I refined Phoenix together after my parents. Every safety protocol exists because of what we learned, yet complications still occur. Elijah nodded toward George. Like yesterday's episode, which you probably engineered. Dominic took a step forward. You've had access to the hospital systems. It would be easy for someone with your skills. Penny checked her father's monitors. His readings were becoming erratic. Whatever you're doing to him, stop it now. He needs his regular treatment protocol. Of course. Elijah smiled. I'll provide that right after you call an emergency board meeting and publicly withdraw support for Phoenix. Don't do it, Penny, Dominic warned. Once Phoenix is shelved, he has no reason to keep any of us alive. Such dramatics. Elijah sighed. I simply want what's rightfully mine. The company, the recognition, the legacy your grandfather should have left to me instead of his estranged granddaughter. Understanding dawned on Penny. You were in love with him. Elijah's expression flickered. Maxwell was my mentor, my partner in everything but name. Until he chose Dominic to lead Phoenix. A sentimental error. He saw something of himself in the boy. Elijah's voice hardened. But I was the one who stood by him for decades. I deserved to inherit his vision. By sabotaging his work, by endangering his granddaughter's father. Penny moved to the medical equipment. You never loved him. You loved what he could give you. While Elijah's attention was on her, Dominic edged closer to a metal tray of medical instruments. Step away from the equipment, Elijah ordered Penny, gesturing with the gun. My father's neural readings are critical. If you want me to cooperate, I need to stabilize him first. I said step back. Elijah moved toward her. In that moment, Dominic lunged, knocking the gun aside. It discharged, the bullet shattering equipment. The two men crashed into a supply cabinet, grappling for control. Penny scrambled to disconnect her father from the harmful stimulation protocols. As she began reprogramming the system, she heard a second gunshot. Turning, she saw Dominic on the floor, blood spreading across his shirt. Elijah stood over him, gun aimed at his chest. "Now," Elijah said calmly, "about that board meeting." "Let me help him first," Penny pleaded, looking at Dominic's pale face. "Make the call, now, or I finish what I started." Shaking, Penny pulled out her phone. Instead of dialing the board secretary, she hit the emergency alert Dominic had programmed. The phone appeared to be calling, but was actually broadcasting their location to security. "Speakerphone," Elijah instructed. As she pretended to arrange an emergency meeting, Dominic's eyes met hers. Despite his injury, his gaze conveyed a clear message: keep stalling. "The board requires documentation for emergency sessions," she improvised. "I'll need to draft a formal statement of why I'm withdrawing support." "Fine. Be quick about it." Elijah glanced nervously at the windows. Penny knelt beside her father, whispering reassurance while checking Dominic's condition from the corner of her eye. The bleeding seemed controlled. The bullet had grazed his shoulder rather than penetrating his chest. "Phoenix will never succeed," Elijah said, pacing now. "The neural pathways are fundamentally unstable." "They're unstable because you designed them that way," Dominic said weakly. "You sabotaged Maxwell's original algorithms." "I found the backdoor code." Elijah froze. "You're lying. It's documented in the sealed files. The ones Maxwell left with his attorney, not the ones you doctored." Fury contorted Elijah's features. "I improved his designs. I made the necessary adjustments when he became too cautious. You caused the neural degradation. All of it, including in my parents. They were acceptable losses." The casual cruelty of the statement hung in the air. Even in his pain, Dominic's eyes blazed with a cold fury that made Penny shiver. Suddenly, glass shattered as tactical officers burst through windows and doors. In the chaos, Elijah turned the gun toward Penny. Dominic somehow found the strength to lunge upward, tackling him. The gun discharged a third time as security swarmed them. When the dust settled, Elijah was in custody. Dominic was on a stretcher, and paramedics were stabilizing her father. "Your father will be fine," a medic assured her. "We're administering the correct protocol now." Penny nodded numbly, watching as Dominic was loaded into an ambulance. When she tried to join him, a paramedic stopped her. "Family only for now, ma'am." "I'm his wife," she said, the words feeling true for the first time. In the ambulance, she held Dominic's hand while medics worked around them. "You saved my father," she whispered. His fingers tightened weakly around hers. "Couldn't let him take anyone else from me." The vulnerability in his voice broke something inside her. This wasn't the controlled CEO or the calculating businessman who had proposed their arrangement. This was simply Dominic, the man she had glimpsed in rare, unguarded moments. The man she was falling in love with. "Stay with me," she urged as his eyes fluttered. "Always," he murmured before losing consciousness. Penny pressed his hand to her cheek, terrified by the intensity of her feelings. Their marriage had begun as a business transaction, but somewhere along the way, it had become the most real thing in her life. As the ambulance raced toward the hospital, Penny faced an uncomfortable truth. For the first time since their wedding, she was truly afraid of losing her husband. 6 months passed. Autumn leaves scattered across the grounds of the small cottage Penny had rented in Maplewood. She sat on the porch, watching her father navigate his walker down the garden path, slow but steady, each step a victory. 3 laps today, George announced proudly. "Personal best." "That's wonderful, Dad." Penny smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. The Phoenix Project had launched to international acclaim 2 months earlier. Her father was one of the first civilian recipients of the complete neural interface, and his progress exceeded all expectations. The therapy that had nearly killed him under Elijah's manipulation was now giving him back his life. Penny's phone buzzed with a news alert. Blackwood Innovation CEO to receive humanitarian award for groundbreaking neural technology. The ceremony would be in New York tomorrow night. She hadn't seen Dominic since leaving California 4 months ago. After his recovery, something had changed. He withdrew emotionally, burying himself in work as Phoenix moved toward final approval. The wall between them, temporarily breached during the crisis with Elijah, had rebuilt itself higher and stronger. One evening, she'd found him staring at his parents' photograph, a tumbler of scotch in hand. I almost lost everything again, he'd said, not looking at her. Crawford nearly succeeded. But he didn't. Phoenix works. My father is living proof. This time, his voice had been distant. But I've learned that anything I care about can be taken away. 2 weeks later, she'd requested to return to Connecticut. Dominic hadn't argued. The papers he'd sent released her from their agreement months early, with all promised benefits intact. Their marriage would be quietly dissolved after the 1-year mark, maintaining the public narrative while allowing them to move on separately. It was the sensible ending to their business arrangement. So why did it feel like the greatest loss of her life? The next evening, Penny found herself in a taxi heading to the New York Hyatt where the Medical Innovation Awards were being held. She told herself she was just there to witness Phoenix's moment of triumph. Her grandfather's legacy finally realized. The truth was more complicated. She slipped into the ballroom as the ceremony began, taking a seat in the back. When Dominic took the stage to accept the award, her breath caught. He looked thinner, the angles of his face sharper, dark shadows beneath his eyes suggesting sleepless nights. Phoenix represents not just technological innovation, but human possibility, he was saying. The ability to forge new pathways when old ones fail. To reconnect what was disconnected. To heal what seemed permanently broken. His composure was perfect, his delivery flawless. Only someone who truly knew him would see the cost behind that control. This award belongs to 2 people, Dominic continued. First, to Maxwell Reynolds, whose brilliant vision laid the foundation for everything Phoenix became. Penny smiled at the acknowledgement of her grandfather. And second, Dominic paused, something shifting in his expression, to Penelope Silverwood Blackwood. A murmur rippled through the audience. Penny froze in her seat. Most of you know her as my wife. What you don't know is that without her courage, her integrity, and her unwavering humanity, Phoenix would have failed. His voice roughened slightly. Penny taught me the most important lesson of my life. That true control isn't about dominating circumstances or people. It's about knowing when to surrender. He looked out over the audience, and for a moment, Penny thought his eyes found hers in the dim light. I failed to apply that lesson where it mattered most. My greatest regret isn't in the technology we developed, but in what I lost because I couldn't surrender to the most powerful force in human experience. I couldn't surrender to love. Penny's heart hammered against her ribs. Around her, people exchanged glances, witnessing something raw and unexpected from the usually controlled CEO. Wherever you are now, Penny, Dominic said softly. Thank you for showing me what was possible. She didn't remember standing, didn't remember moving toward the stage. But suddenly she was there, in the aisle, visible. Dominic stopped mid-sentence when he saw her. For the first time since she'd known him, genuine shock registered on his face. After the ceremony, they stood facing each other in a quiet corner of the reception hall. Your speech was beautiful, she said. Congratulations on the award. Penny, he said her name like a man coming up for air. I didn't know you were here. I didn't plan to be. But I needed to see this through. For my grandfather, for my father. She hesitated. For us. There is no us. I made sure of that. By pushing me away? By protecting you. His composure cracked slightly. Everything I care about becomes a target. I couldn't risk that happening to you again. That wasn't your choice to make. It was the only choice I could live with. His eyes searched her face. Your father's doing well? Walking with assistance. Regaining sensation. The doctors say he might be fully mobile within a year. I'm glad. An awkward silence stretched between them. So many words unsaid. Our agreement will conclude next month, Dominic finally said. The divorce papers are prepared. Is that what you want? What I want stopped mattering the moment I realized how much I had to lose. Penny stepped closer. For a brilliant man, you've missed something important. You already lost it. Your choice to push me away guaranteed that. Pain flashed across his face. But here's what you never understood, Dominic. She took his hand, feeling him tense at the contact. Love isn't a business transaction. It's not something you control or manage. It's something you surrender to. Penny, I love you. The words fell between them, simple and irrevocable. Not the CEO, not the billionaire. Just you. The man who sits on the floor with injured children. The man who risked his life for my father. The man who still blames himself for not saving his parents. He looked stricken. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. She smiled through tears. but I'd rather figure it out together than succeed at anything else apart. Something shifted in his eyes, fear giving way to hope, control yielding to possibility. I love you, he whispered, the words clearly unfamiliar on his tongue. I have for longer than I wanted to admit. Their first honest kiss wasn't in a mansion or before cameras. It was in a quiet corner of a hotel ballroom, witnessed only by each other. Two people finally brave enough to surrender control and trust in something greater than themselves. 2 months later, they renewed their vows, not as a business arrangement, but as a promise between equals. This time, when Penny said, "I do," she wasn't thinking about what she would gain. She was celebrating what she had already found,